My name is Fatou Wurie, and I am the founder and CEO of Youterus Health. The first thing my womb said to me, spoke to me really, is that she is tired of being in pain. She is angry, and that anger manifests every month when she is bleeding, blood clots, and is in so much pain. And she felt and sounded really enraged because she had resigned herself to the belief that there was no solution, and it was normal for her to go through 3 days, 5 days, 10 days of just pain. The earliest sign for me that something wasn't right was actually as young as age 10 when I first got my period. I bled profusely to the point where I bled through my panties, through 3 pads. I bled through my trousers. I bled through my sheets. I think since I was 10 years old, but no one told me that it wasn't normal. In fact, I felt blamed that I couldn't keep myself clean or I couldn't contain this blood because that volume, that level of blood was just normal. That's what happened to my body, I guess, and it was my responsibility to ensure that no one saw it and nothing happened. And so now that I think back at it, it was since I was age 10. There were so many signs along the way, so many ways my body tried to speak to me that something wasn't right. The pain every month, and then when I hit my early 20s, I started growing little chin hairs, and I unfortunately used to judge women who had hair on their chin because once again, we have this prescribed notion of what is masculine and what's feminine, and I started growing these hairs, but I used to grow like 5, just 5 every month. And so now that I think about it, in between the bleeding and the chin hair and the weight fluctuation and just, I can't overstate the insensate pain, my body was telling me something isn't right. I guess I never questioned anything. I just felt I had to bear through it. And the only time I started thinking through my options were when I decided I wanted to have a child when I was 33. That was the first time I thought, okay, maybe this is the time I go to a gynecologist for anything other than a pap smear or any type of blood work, but let me try and figure out what the status of my womb is. And by status, I just meant, can I have children or not? That was the first time I was proactively seeking to understand my uterus. It was when I wanted to have a child. I felt like because I didn't have anyone to tell me that my periods were abnormal, I didn't feel like there was anywhere to go for information. What I felt was a lot of shame during my period because I would bleed through everything. I'll never forget being in Geneva in this really high-level meeting in this fancy conference room on this gold chair and bleeding through the gold chair that had a white covering and had to walk with the chair outside and apologize for 5 minutes to the staff as I ran into a taxi to go home and change. The world had no answers. It just reaffirmed the shame that I felt. I remember the day my gynecologist told me I wouldn't be able to conceive because I had a 10-centimeter fibroid in my uterine wall. I just told my parents, I told my mom, I told my sister, and the focus became, well, now you have to do a surgery. So we were trying to figure out that. It was never really, let's look at this, how do you feel, or how can, what could we have done? And then, funnily, I remembered that my sister friend, big sister friend, Nasu, a year before then had surgery. So I reached out to her. And then another friend had surgery. That's who I reached out to say, hey, I just found out that I have this fibroid. You happen to have spoken about it to me or on social media. What does it mean? In reaching out to them, I got very, these women were very generous with their story, but it felt like it was really a conversation around the mechanics of going through surgery. We didn't exchange about maybe the pain or the anxiety or the fact that there was a lack of information. It was just, well, this happened to me. This is what I'm doing right now. This is how my surgery went. And also reaffirming that a lot of women in our community also go through that. But now that I think about that conversation, our focus was just getting through an impending surgery that is always daunting versus all the ways that we're feeling about our bodies. I walked into that doctor's office that day to feeling very empowered that I was taking ownership of my life to have a child. And I thought that was brave of me, given my cultural background. And I always describe it as going in there feeling empowered and walking out of that office feeling really stripped of my power, that I couldn't have a child, literally right now if I wanted to, because I had a fibroid obstructing my opportunity to do so. And I also learned that even if I were to do the surgery, I would most likely have to deliver my child through cesarean section versus vaginally. And that felt like I had less choices. I didn't even think I cared about it until I was told that, it would reduce my chance to have a vaginal birth, which at that time felt like a really important thing to experience. It's been a couple of years since the surgery, and thankfully I have a daughter. And my womb these days, she's very aware. The rage has left because she's experienced carrying life, and that changes you, I think, profoundly. And even after I delivered my daughter, I was told that my fibroids had returned, and I also had cysts, which I didn't have before. So with knowing all of that, my womb is very aware, very present, and she is very clear about her choices and about all the ways that she always has to be tended to. I believe that uterus health has come to fruition because I had to experience what I experienced. And that has been the most healing feeling, that I can go from being told I may not be able to have a child to undergoing a surgery, an open surgery, to healing my body, to recognizing that there are so many women who don't even have the same opportunities that I have, and transforming that into the possibility of reimagining women's access to care that has to do with their wombs. It's healing to know that as African women, we can redefine and speak to the things that are killing us silently, the things that we normalize, that we can push back. That has been a very healing moment for me, and I pray that we're able to have this vision expand across the continent. And being a mother as well has helped me come into my body again, as I walk the journey of motherhood, and also being a founder to a company that is very committed to centering African women's voices, stories, health, and well-being. To anyone that's just beginning this journey, my message is you're not alone. You are not wronged. You're not bewitched. You're not facing this because of you did something bad or because you're a bad person or that you made bad choices or anything negative. It is our bodies responding to who we are genetically, who we are in our environment, who we are with what we eat, who we are with what we carry spiritually, and that is beyond our control. So just to know that you're not alone and that there are other women who have walked a similar journey and that there's a sisterhood that will walk with you, give you the information, refer you to incredible doctors that can ensure that you get the care that you need. If my womb could speak, she would say, I deserve care. I am cared for. And in that, I'm also free.